Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's date, it is December 8th of 2022, and it's 5:45 a.m. in the morning. I made a very uh, small change to the way I'm doing things with a single monitor, but it's a wide monitor. And we'll see how this goes. This is one view you will maybe be seeing. That the screen, and then this other screen. And this here where you're seeing Manicam's control panel. It's going to be like watching what sausage made or something like that. What's the saying? That you don't want to watch sausage being, is it sausage, you don't want to watch sausage being made or something. But right now, as long as I continue to do this, it, might work out okay for me, and you people might even, kind of enjoy it. I don't know. So I really don't have anything except I'm sort of playing around with everything. Um, with Manicam, which I happen to like, and an awful lot of people that are doing what I'm doing, they like OBS. There's a whole bunch of different ways to make, YouTube videos. Some people use a cell phone. Some people, have a digital camera. And I did that, a few days or something. I did that. And, for the digital camera, you remove the battery, and then you put a thing in there, and then that's plugged into AC, so you don't have to worry about your battery going out on you, all that type of stuff. And, using one of those cameras, you do have a whole bunch of, options and a whole lot of things you can do. I've got two digital cameras, nice ones. Uh, I traded one off to somebody, and that was a G7, Panasonic G7. That's a really nice camera, and I traded it off for some stuff, for a old Apple computer and for some other stuff. But this is working. But anyway, here you can see the control panel on the right hand side. Frames per second running right at 60. CPU is like I'm only using like 1% of it. I guess the RAM says 399 megabytes. And I guess that's what's being used. I'm not sure on that one. You can see that on the down here, that I'm using an Elgato Wave 3 microphone. That's right here. And yesterday's video I made, my God, I have so many problems with audio. I could just see a little bit of being out of sync, just a little bit. It didn't bother me a lot, but it does bother me when it gets to, So, problem is I mess around too much with things. And I've always done that because I enjoy doing it. I don't enjoy it when things don't go right, though. The Democrats over here to CNN, the Democrats should be able to, there should be some award we could give him. The greatest asset to the Democratic Party, the man who helped us, win, and, all kinds of stuff, because he he has a tremendous following, but in this election that just took place, you can see that he's really hurting the Republican Party big time. And the smart Republicans, and there are some smart Republicans, maybe I shouldn't say smart, maybe I should say, something like, it's a bad thing if you say about somebody, treacherous or conniving or something, though, that's more that you could say, well, that's okay, but it really wouldn't be okay, I think a whole bunch of Republicans, but nobody wants to admit, well, some do, a whole bunch of Republicans realize, oh my God, if Trump had stayed out of the election that just happened, I'm not talking about the one that happened a couple of days ago, I'm talking, the midterms or whatever. If he had stayed out of that, the Republicans would have gained a whole bunch of seats, in the Senate, and a whole bunch more. They would be, in control of they are in control now of the House, but they would be in control of the Senate also. And that, the way things work, with the government, if you control the Senate, there's a whole bunch of decisions and things that go, and if you have a majority, then you can pass some things through. You can do some things too, even if you're not voting on the thing, just by having a majority, things can pass on through and whatever. So, if Trump had, but he can't, if he had just tried to be a different type of a person, but he's not able to. So thank God in a way. It's not thank God, though, that he was president for 4 years. He spoke before the United Nations, and the people from the United Nations of the world laughed at him. I mean, laughed. He wasn't joking, and they knew it wasn't a joke, and they were laughing at him. That's humiliating for the United States. If you're Luxembourg or, Paraguay or something, and if they, if your leader went to the United Nations and if people laughed, it wouldn't be bad, but if you're the leader of the free world or whatever, oh my God. Trump team, the lawyers, I'm not sure what part Trump played in it, went out and investigated, and they found 2 more classified documents hidden in a storage unit someplace. Something needs to be done about that entire situation, and the way Trump, lies and says that Obama took thousands of, documents from the White. No, he didn't. I mean, and that's a flat out lie. And everybody except for his cult, they know that. And Trump met with another, Trump's been meeting with, I don't know, neo-Nazis and, anti-Semites, just all types of people. And, Trump is extremely stupid, and he has mental problems, serious mental problems. And he's so unbelievably stupid, and he won't learn. And I don't think he can learn, because because I mentioned this in some other videos. Back in the 80s? I think maybe the 1980s, I can't remember. I worked hospital security, and the director of security was very smart, and but he had some problems which I couldn't understand. Well, he had there you have, this guy was director of security. He was very smart. And he has, the problems that Donald Trump has. And Donald Trump was, very stupid and had the problems that Donald Trump has. But I was working for this director of security. I didn't want to be a supervisor. He insisted I ended up being I could have said no. I did say no, but then he knew how to play me. And he asked me to go over and solve a problem on the second shift, go over as supervisor and solve a problem. Oh, that worked on me. Go over and solve the problem. I'd just be there a short period of time, and I went over and I solved the problem. A couple problems. And it took me years to get back on the day shift. And when I went back to day shift, I wasn't supervisor for a while. I never really wanted to be supervisor, but give me a problem to solve, and I just love it, But I did not understand, until we had Trump, about the type of problem that he had, mental problems and emotional, I don't know what kind, all kinds of problems. And with this guy that I worked for, that I was working for, I didn't understand why he did I knew he was smart. I didn't understand why he did the things that he did. I did 4 grievances against the guy, and I won all 4 of them. And for a little while, we were kind of concerned. His office was on the 6th, the security office was on the 6th floor too, but he had his office down around the corner. And we were seriously concerned that he might, because of my grievance, my third or fourth grievance, that he might, I think it was the 3rd grievance, that he might just jump out the window. And that's the problem with me. I have a strange sense of humor. And half of the things that drove this director of security, that just upset him, and he went ballistic, and that doesn't help you, be sane, but I was actually joking with him. But then when he goes ballistic, instead of saying, "Sir, I was just joking with you," and then I would have had to say a little bit of, flattery, which would have been real, And, but no, when he went ballistic, then I said, okay, and one time, because of the way he was, the hospital that we were working at, caught fire. Now, I worked hospital security for 30 years. There was fires at hospitals before, that I worked at, small fires and things, things like that, little things. But I was, making my rounds through the hospital on the day shift or whatever, and I smelled smoke, and there was a plant ops guy there. I said, "I smell smoke," and he says, "I do too." And I unlocked the door on this side, and there wasn't any fire there, and he unlocked the door on the other side, and the fire and smoke just poured out. And the director of security, because of the way he was up in his office. And the head of the volunteers, which that's a hell of a job. If you are at a hospital, because hospitals use a lot of volunteers, and that saves the hospital a lot of money. And if you're the head of the volunteers, you have a very, you'd think, somebody's, head of the dietary department, head of plant operations, all these different things. But the head of the volunteers, these gray-haired or whatever old ladies, there's young people too that show up, and the candy stripers and stuff, But if you have that position, that's really, the hospital, administration knows, hey, this. So anyway, the she smells smoke on the third floor. She was on the third floor with the gift shop. So she dialed, instead of dialing the operator, she dialed the security office. And it rang in his office, and he answered it, and she said, I smell smoke, and then he he had a bad leg. Anyway, but he came down to the third floor, so he was down there. Meanwhile, this plant ops guy and myself, we discovered this fire, and it was a real fire in the telephone equipment room. I mean, it could have taken out our communications system, the alarms that rang at the fire department and everything else. It was a hell of a fire. And I couldn't get into, of course I did my thing, with the radio, emergency doctor red, second floor telephone equipment room, and then the operator, did her thing, paged it over the public address system. I hit the fire alarm that was on the wall close to this, because that closed all the fire doors in the hospital, and that also rang at the fire department. And I couldn't get into, so I was there just doing what I could do, and so anyway, and I knew, because I was a security officer, and because I was also the supervisor, and of the day shift at that time, I knew how many units would be coming to the hospital, and I knew where those units would pull up, and I knew about how long it wouldn't take them long too. Their fire station was not far away. If I'd have been outside, I'd have been able to hear the sirens, and so then where's the fire department? So I called, and then the director of security, he gets on the radio. He had his radio, a couple of times I had to take his radio. Once he was a patient in the hospital, and I come in to work, and we're getting ready to make the shift change time. I'm coming in, and then I hear him on the radio, and I said, I thought Mr. Ross was in the hospital. Oh, he is. And I said, what's he doing with the radio? Well, he told us to bring him one over. I said, God damn. So I went over there and walked into his room and said, how you feeling, or whatever, And I said, I'm taking your radio. You can't have it. And he let me. In fact, he usually put me in charge when he was, gone, or, whatever. Although there was a lieutenant above me, but anyway, he said, oh no, Jim, I stopped the fire department up here. It's the motor on the refrigeration unit for the flowers out here in the hallway, because of the gift shop, and I said, no sir, the fire's here on the, it's on the second floor, and he came back. No sir, heavy smoke and fire, here, I'm at the scene of the fire, send the fire department, and he comes back on the radio, no, it's, whatever. So then I just, with my radio, I called out to the parking lot attendant, because I knew out there that there was, I can't remember after all these years, I knew I'm not sure if it was a pumper, and I'm not sure, I can't remember now what the response units were and where they, but anyway, I told the parking lot attendant, I said, forget his name now, I said, let's say Bob, bring the firemen through the dock area over on the second floor, which that would have brought it when they came in the dock area right there, that would have been, I said the fire's, next to the ICU unit, and bring them in, and he did, and whatever. And the director of security, he just wanted to suck up to, and the hospital that was a serious fire. There was another hospital that had a very serious fire, much worse than ours, and hospitals don't want to ever have to evacuate somebody, you know, you know, down, or up, They want to just be able to move them over to another side of the hospital or something. They had to carry patients downstairs and do all kinds of that. And then I got hired in part-time over there because of that fire. And so when I made my rounds, I could see, wow, they did have a hell of a fire. People are, not so much at that hospital, even though they'd had a big fire. At that hospital, the one that had the fire, not the one I worked full-time at. I'd be making my rounds through the hospital, and in a waiting room, a big waiting room or whatever, the lights would all be turned out, so family, would be sleeping on the couches, that kind of stuff. And I'd be going down, and I'd see the glow of a cigarette in there. Somebody, and of course there was no smoking in the hospital at all, zero. People. Anyway, if I had understood when I was working at this hospital, where we had the director of security who had the same thing, of course, I guess maybe I'd heard of Trump, I don't know. But if I had known what I was dealing with, I would have just quit and gone something. In fact, I was offered a job as a security officer at a Johnson County Community College. That'd have been a good place to work. And but the guy said, Jim, you got the job. You're, because I was a CPR instructor. I was, let's see, EMT. I didn't actually do it, but I went through the, all this. I had all this kind of. So he said, yeah, you got the job. He said, but I just got to tell you about the bad thing. And he told me, and it wasn't a big thing, but I knew I couldn't handle that. And that was that the students there at the community college, when something came up, well, he used an example. He says, we got all these sports fields here and everything. And he says, the students have to get permission, fill out a form and have it approved, that they can have it for certain hours and that type of stuff. He says a lot of times they won't do that, and then security will go and say, well, you have to have this, and then one of them will go to it. That's before cell phones, by the way. And then one goes to a cell phone or to well, you young whippersnappers won't know about that, And, then they call the dean of students, the dean of faculty, the dean of, I don't know, all this type of stuff. And that person will, say, let me talk to security, and then let them do it. And I said, I wish, I appreciate, thank you very much for filling me in. I said, I'd have problems with that, and I really, looks like a fantastic place to work. I just wouldn't be able to take it, and thanks, So I should have gone there if I had known the situation that I was dealing with. A Trump situation before I knew that Trump had a situation. And anyway, back to the news. I think I'm going to end this here at 25 minutes. I feel so sorry for the people in Afghanistan and the Taliban. I don't feel sorry for the Taliban, but there's going to be a documentary on Netflix, and it's from Harry and Meghan, and the British royal family. I don't know much, about them, but I watched a little bit of the TV things we've had over here, and I used to listen to the British Broadcasting Corporation because I was into shortwave radio since I was in grade school, and I ended up not in grade school. I ended up doing a radio program that was broadcast over shortwave radio around the world, and I did all kinds of things. But one thing I know is the royal family wants control of. They don't want stories told. They don't want any hint of any all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure that this Harry and Meghan thing is going to, and I don't know, I'm not going to give advice to the royal family. I don't know what they're going to, I don't think they're going to refute item for item, but I don't know. Maybe they'll start a war with some country and they don't get it off. I'm kidding, of course, Okay. I'm looking at my little timer over here. I'm going to make this a 30-minute video, and I only got a few minutes here to go. These people that, I'm looking at the Florida lawmaker charged with COVID fraud relief, the things that people, do, it's just amazing. And the things that some people get away with. It just seems like the world's just, well, that's because I'm old. You know how the old people are. I'm sure you've seen those statements that appear occasionally. They'll say, quoting, we're quoting from a, somebody, and they'll say, oh, the youth of today are terrible. They don't respect their elders. They, blah, blah. And then it'll say, that was said by, Aristotle or, somebody, and there'll be something else, and said, it'll be the same type of thing. You'll say, yeah, that person sure knows, the thing, and it'll be, back in ancient times that somebody, it's in scrolls or scratched on a wall or something or other. My God. Topless beaches now legal on Nantucket. There's a nude beach, by the way. If you watch my videos, you know about it. There's a nude beach in Miami, and people. I'm sure there probably are some people who come all the way from around the world to go to it, but no, it's people who go to Florida for the weather and that type of stuff. And there's a beach there that's perfectly legal, and it's been legal for a long time. The local nudist club down there, or whatever, used a section of this Haulover beach, and it was allowed. And then finally, they had cooperation with the law enforcement and with city management, that type of stuff, and the local nudist club or whatever, and then the people that went there finally, also figured it out that, hey, no hanky-panky. You can come here, you can get naked, and you can enjoy the sun, you can get a great tan, feels good, all that kind of stuff, but, you're not going to be, we're not going to see anybody humping anybody around there, or and it's still going, and now Nantucket. Yeah, I went to the Haulover nude beach, I think 3 times. Once when I was living in Orlando, I drove up there. And unfortunately, I got too much sun, and on the way back, I got a call. I was a supervisor for I didn't want. I went down there. I retired in 2000. Anyway, I was down there, and then I thought, well, I could use a little extra money. So I went to a contract guard agency and filled out the application, and I said, I'm just looking for a job sitting inside. I've done security for 30 years, longer actually than 30 years. I'm just looking for a job, 2 12-hour shifts, maybe Saturday and Sunday, and sitting inside of the lobby of a place checking people in and out or something like that. And it was like the one guy, said to the other guy, oh my God, this guy's got hospital security experience, a whole bunch. They had a contract for a hospital. And I said, no, not interested, They offered me more money. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was more money. A lot, I didn't know how much the other guys, I was in charge, but I didn't know what the other guys made. That I was, and several times when they came out, to relieve me, the other guy, and he'd say, this isn't working, because the hospital, they'd had numerous security companies, and every one of them had messed up big time. And so anyway, when they hired me in, this new company, and they had the lieutenant or whatever drive me out to the hospital. So the guy in charge of plant operations, because that's what he'd sort of be in charge. And not really in charge. Well, I guess he was in charge. We had a little space, in their plant operations thing and whatever. But so anyway, this guy, when I got in the car to go out there, he looked at my application or whatever, the information that came on, and he said, I've never seen this before. And I said, oh, what? And he said, no arrests, no convictions, no tickets, no. And I said, and I was like, I didn't say anything, I don't think. Like, oh my God, who in the world are you hiring? And then he said, on the drive out, yeah, you'll be able to, there've been problems in the past, and he told me some of the things that had happened with other security companies. And he told me some of the things. And then I said, I won't be able to fix that. He says, oh, you'll be able to fix it. I said, no. Those people that work there will never forget those, and they will bring those things up forever. When you make a mistake like that, and at a hospital, they will never forget it. And sure enough, when I got out there, But that's the worst hospital. I've mentioned that in other videos. That's the worst hospital I've ever seen. At this point, the other, like I guess when they started out, they had, 2 or 3 security officers maybe per shift or something. And then when the security officers were, messing up, then they cut back. They switched companies, and then they went with less than 3. And by the time this other company came along, there was 1 person, per shift, and we were not allowed in the hospital. I mean, all the other people, no matter what they did, all had an ID card that you could put in the door and get in and do this kind of stuff. Yeah, we had it once we got inside and went and knocked on the plant operations door, and then the of course they were getting ready to go home for, but then they'd let you in, and then we could get our key, and then we could get our keys, and then we could get the ID tag or whatever. And we weren't allowed in. Of course, we could go in and go to the bathroom, and we could go in and go to lunch or something, but we weren't supposed to be. And the entire thing was disastrous. Anyway, it was just bad. I could, well, you're not interested. Oh, anyway, time for me to stop. Thank you very much for watching. I'm not going to tell you to do a thumbs up, you know, or whatever. Because you won't do it. Well, some people do thumbs up, yeah. But you're not going to use a link that's going to take you to where you could click on something on Amazon and I would get it. And you're not probably going to, you know, well, 3,500 of you have subscribed. But it should be, I've been here since 2005 or whatever when I was doing videos, even streaming videos before there was a YouTube and all the rest of these people, you know. But we are what we are and who we are. And you're not old enough to be part of the very beginning, but there was just something about the people who were attracted to this kind of stuff is they don't want to link, they don't want to click on something. Oh, if it's sex, you know, they'll click on that. But they don't want to click on, you know, something else. They don't want to click on an ad. But that's life. Life in the big C. Thank you very much for watching.